Good evening. The regular meeting of the Bellflower City Council is called to order, back to open session on Monday, February 11, 2019 at 7:08 p.m. We are reconvening from closed session, and there are no reportable action taken during the closed session. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Dunton.
Here.
Councilmember Amata.
Did you hear?
Councilmember Coops.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Garza.
Here.
Mayor Santinas.
Here. Tonight's invocation will be led by Mayor Pro Tem Juan Garza, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Assistant City Manager and Director of Public Works, Len Gorecki. Please stand.
Will you please bow your head? Dear Lord, we come before you here as we gather here tonight. As we begin this meeting, we ask that you guide our thoughts and our actions so that we may have a successful meeting this evening. So that we may accomplish our goals here tonight on behalf of our great city, our residents, and our businesses, all in an effort to work together to improve the quality of life for all. We ask that you please be with the men and women in uniform in our community and abroad who bravely serve our communities and nation every single day to maintain our peace and our freedom, and that you cover them with your protection. We pray these things in your mighty name. Amen.
Amen.
Please address our nation's flag. Put your right hand over your heart and repeat after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Garza, and thank you, Mr. Gorecki. City Council announcements. Let me start. Volunteers are needed for the Vietnam Veterans Memorial coming to Bellflower. The city of Bellflower is honored to be the only city in Los Angeles County that's been selected to host the Wall That Heals in this year's 2019. The Wall That Heals is a three-quarter scale replica of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. that travels with a mobile education center. If you recall, if you go to Washington, D.C., you can see the actual Vietnam Veterans Wall. So instead of you traveling to Washington, D.C., a replica is coming to town. The traveling exhibit honors more than 3 million Americans who served in the U.S. Armed Forces in the Vietnam War and bears the names of more than 58,000 men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice in Vietnam. The Wall That Heals will be on display 24 hours per day from March 21st to the 24th, 2019 at John H. Sims Park, located at 16614 Clark Avenue, Bellflower, California. For more information, please call 562-804-1424, extension 2267. Mayor Pro Tem Garza.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Valet service is coming to downtown Bellflower. As new businesses open in downtown, the need for more parking is increasing. The city has been exploring ways to improve the downtown parking experience and is permitting public valet service in the city parking lot located east of Bellflower Boulevard between Oak Street and Belmont Street. Again, it's located east of Bellflower Boulevard between Oak Street and Belmont Street. In addition to valet service, new 2-hour parking signs have been installed in the lot. Cedar Valet's original start date has been postponed and is now set for Friday, March 1st. So again, I repeat, valet will start on Friday, March 1st. Valet service will be available on Friday and Saturday evenings from 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. And for more information, please call 562-804-1424, extension 2010. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Garza. Councilmember Raymond Hamada.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's see, Mayfair High School vocal program is once again providing a singing Valentine for your sweetheart, friend, or relative for $5 anywhere in the USA. Let's see, singing Valentines have been a long-standing tradition for over 50 years, performed in beautiful harmonies by the students of the vocal program. let's see, Singing Valentine phone calls will be sung live on Thursday, February 14th, 2018. Please make checks payable to the Mayfair High School vocal boosters and then also provide the following information: name and phone, let's see, number of the recipient or recipients, your name and relationship to the recipient, if they are a friend, sweetheart, child, or relative. Send the information and donation to Mayfair High School, and that'd be attention to Gina Holcomb, 6000 North Woodruff Avenue, Lakewood, California, 90713. These requests must be received by February 13th. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Hamada. Councilmember Dan Coops.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Business mentoring and workshops, SCORE mentors, are available at no cost to assist new and established businesses on Bellflower City Hall. SCORE is a nonprofit association dedicated to helping small businesses get off the ground, to grow and achieve their goals through education and mentorship. SCORE will be hosting a small business workshop focusing on creating a dynamic team culture that will deliver awesome customer service. The workshop is scheduled for tomorrow, Tuesday, February 12, at 6 p.m. to 8:45 p.m. right here at Bellflower City Hall. For more information, please visit the website www.orangecounty.score.org. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Coops. Councilmember Ray Dunn.
Thank you, Mayor. A friendly reminder, the much-needed construction for Bellflower Boulevard south of the 91 freeway is now taking shape. The Bellflower Boulevard widening project will add an additional traffic lane in each direction and lengthen the northbound turn lane onto the 91 freeway. During construction, the traffic lanes will be minimized to one lane in each direction. It is recommended that drivers avoid this area due to expected traffic congestion. Drivers are encouraged to use Lakewood Boulevard and Clark Avenue off and on ramps to access the 91 freeway. The project is scheduled to be completed by the end of May 2019. That will be much needed relief in that area from some time. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Public comments. Mr. Stewart.
This is the time set aside for the public to address the City Council on matters not listed on the agenda. Anyone wishing to address the City Council should come to the podium, be recognized by the mayor, and state your name for the record. If you wish to address the City Council on an agenda item, you may do so by approaching the podium as we review that particular item. You'll be given a reasonable amount of time to address the City Council.
All right, come on up.
Good evening,
Good
Mayor
evening.
and City Council and staff. My name is Dennis Azevedo. A couple of comments. Number one, you guys keep up the great job. I can hardly wait for that In-N-Out to open. Number two, thank you for having the Vietnam Wall in the city here. I'm a two-time Vietnam vet, so I look forward to attending that, and I'll get a hold of them because I want to volunteer to help with that. And as most of you know, I'm president of the Kiwanis Club this time, and if there's anybody in the audience that wants to help the city, feel free to get a hold of me, and I'll let them know how they can do that. Thank you very much.
Mr. Acevedo, I know that you know a lot of people, so if you have a lot of names who want to volunteer, please contact PJ Milana. We need a lot of volunteers.
Got it.
All right, thank you so
sir.
much.
All right.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. I'm Josh Murray. On
Good
behalf
evening,
of,
Josh.
Good evening. On behalf of Clifton and Brackenseek Library, 9945 Flower Street, I'd like to invite everybody to our upcoming bonsai succulent workshop on Saturday, February 23rd, 2019, from 12 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. Come learn how to adapt your succulents into the traditional Japanese ancient art of bonsai. Bring your own containers, and all other materials will be provided. And this is an adult program. Again, Saturday, February 23rd at 12 p.m. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
Mayor, council members,
Mr. Butts, good evening.
staff, ladies and gentlemen, I have a couple of items I would like to bring to your attention this evening, and a couple of them I've spoken on before. Number one is the Union Bank parking lot which I've been bringing this up for 2 years now, and nothing's been done yet about it, or discussion, basically, or nothing. We've had a few comments from a few people on it over the giving back the parking lot to the city, or I mean to Union Bank, instead of putting this god-awful monument or whatever the hell they wanted to do for a downtown figure there, which meant nothing because you have no downtown to begin with. But somebody needs to step on this and do something finally. 2 years is a slap in the face for any city to even think about starting to do something like this, of this nature. So I'd like to finally, out of embarrassment, ask you to at least take it under hand and do something for a change. I'm tired of waiting. That's number one, the parking lot. I understand that you want to put some sort of figure there in that corner. Well, that's good and dandy, but give them back the parking lot. It was held hostage over everybody's head to begin with, and you all know it. Number two, whatever happened with the promised money the city of Bellflower was going to get from our illustrious county and state for the homeless? Because the homeless is more prevalent in this town now today than it ever was. And it's getting worse. I mean, if you want to put a monument up saying, welcome to downtown Bellflower, and then have everybody sleeping in the doorways of the businesses and the vacant buildings and waving at people that want to come in and open a business and run away as quickly as they came. So something needs to be done. I know that there was discussion about hiring a firm to monitor them and maybe, I'm going to put it in terms of my way of doing it, harassment to get rid of them. This is not your way of doing it. But something needs to be done. Now, I went to Walmart here for chance to pick up some medication for my wife, last week. Here, the panhandlers at the door of Walmart. Or not Walmart, Walgreens here. And so I just asked the person inside, can we get a hold of the police department and do something? Well, all the remarks you get out of the poor manager at the stores, we've called the sheriff's department, but they don't respond. So they don't do nothing. So now that brings up another question. Seeing as we don't know where Janice Hahn, the illustrious supervisor that does nothing in my book, where's the money? Where's the cleanup nonsense from our little escapade here in Alondra too? What's happened with that? Who knows? You don't get an answer out of these politicians after they've been in. They think they're there and they're not vulnerable. So let's end that part. But I'd like answers to these questions. Now the third thing is the sheriff's department. How can the sheriff's department each year come to this city council and ask for another $500,000 because that's what our cost is? Every year. That tells me there's something wrong here. And it's common sense. Well, I need that to pay for everybody that goes out on early disability with these big pensions for life and all these other programs. So that's why I need the extra $500,000 because I lost another 20 of them that filed for a permanent disability because of stress or some nonsense of that nature. Which leads to the item, this was brought up several years ago, but due to the politicians that controlled this city at that time, there were two stuck in there with the sheriff's department to begin with. They wouldn't allow anyone to even look at an outside agency. So I think it's time the city of Bellflower got with maybe the city of Lakewood and Paramount and Artesia and said, let's form our own police department so we have some control over it and we can do something. The sheriff's department is too damn big. They play God. They don't care about you and I because we're little pawns. The city of Bellflower is a little pawn. They don't care. So it's time to at least look into this thing, and for the taxpayers of this city, it's time to do something about it. That's item 3. Item 4, let's see, I've been beating on this for 3 years now. It has to do with the business license fees, where I can't understand when you got a business in this town. My business license fee as a business owner is $178 a year. Fine, I have no problem with that, even though I don't do any business in the city of Bellflower. But I do have a problem with the archaic 25-year ride of these apartment people that own these apartment units that have been shafting this city for millions of dollars for all these years. So it's time to actually come to grips with this situation. Me as a business person, I offer a business, I pay my fee of my one business. If I have 2 businesses, then I'm going to be paying $178 for each business. Every apartment, not apartment complex, apartment unit is a business. Because the owner of that apartment unit, if he has 10 apartments, that's 10 businesses. Don't tell me he can't afford to pay $178 for each one of those 10 businesses, because it's a business. And that's where it's missing the boat. Everybody in the past has been afraid to challenge these people because they wouldn't get elected to your political offices. Scared to death of them. Because what is your rental factor in this town? 72%? That's business and residential. How many residential units in this town pay a business license that is a rental unit? The city doesn't even know. They never done nothing to find out. For what, 30 years or better? You're always looking for money. But you sure hide this one behind the back, because I wouldn't get elected to a city council seat. But it's time to change the ball game. You're looking for revenue. There's an ideal revenue source, and it's a legal, legitimate revenue source. To allow them a fee of, say, moving them from, instead of $178 to say $75 is wrong. Because if you do that, I'll find some outfit out there to form them a class action suit. Because they're no different than I am. The 178 should be a firm number on all of them. The city staff has enough people riding around playing code enforcement, driving those little trucks, street sweeping, following the street sweeper, issuing those tickets and stuff. Why can't they write down a few addresses, come in, go to the county record, or go to the computer or something? God, is this a rental one, or is it owner occupied? Oh, it's a rental. Oh, we didn't know that one, so let's file him. We'll send him a bill for his taxes. Your code enforcement people don't do nothing. It's absurd to pay the amount of money you pay for a guy to chase that street sweeper to begin with, and the benefits with it. There's so many things that you're missing here that can really help you financially. The nice program that you've done too recently is the solar program. I've had several compliments from people that bought the solar that are happy that at least the city's looking out for them also and not letting the solar people shaft them. So Bellflower has a positive thing. They're the only city I know of at the moment that's done this to protect the consumer. And it's unfortunate the rest of these stupid cities, which I've talked to Downey, which is a bunch of ignorant people too, that play God and think they know everything. But these are things that I wanted to bring to your attention tonight, and I'd like some answers on it. And then when you look at your cannabis thing, why didn't somebody put in there that if you're gonna get a license, you have so much time to exercise that and open the door? Open the doors for revenue source. It was overlooked, unfortunately. If you're gonna do anything more with this cannabis thing,
That's an agenda item. If you want to
All
speak about that, you can come back
all right,
later.
I'll come back on that. But then, to come back to these other things, I want answers to them. I don't want it just shined off. I want answers to every one of those questions I've asked. And I think,
I'll meet with you, Mr. Musk, tomorrow. I can walk through all of it with you.
yeah, I
Yeah,
know you will.
I will.
There's an honest gentleman that I really highly respect. Thank you very much.
Okay, just come up.
Yeah,
Sign in, please.
yeah. I have a question. How do you decide who's the speaker at the Bravo Awards? Because we had a really good one with Jim Abbott.
That's good.
I mean, as far as how is it the city council or is it just PG Millet as to who?
It's the mayor's choice.
It's a secret process.
Oh, yeah.
It's a secret
So the,
process.
so the mayor
Anyway,
basically decides.
Staff comes up with recommendations, and the mayor makes the selection.
Yeah, that's not secret anymore.
I'm just sharing this with you, Peter, okay?
By the way, when the wall, are you gonna allow people like pop-up tents, basically camp out for the 4 days or 3 days, or they can't really camp out, bring tents and put it up? Yeah,
To camp out?
yeah, get tents and just,
No. All right. PJ will get back to you on that question. All right, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening, Anita. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. I've come with something new. Well, yes, it's new, but it's also part of something we're already has talked about, which is my street. Something new happened this weekend that I'd like to bring to your attention and ask if you can check out and see if this is legal or what's going on. I'm going to try to remember from my notes, but because my printer wouldn't print.
Okay.
So, but Friday night, all of a sudden about 5:30, 6 o'clock, I started hearing this beep, 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 like, a truck backing up. So I go out to my back room window and I look out, and there's the road behind me, behind a wall, and there are huge trucks with trailers attached, and they're backing in and parking in this open lot right across from me and right next to this new business that just opened that's doing the fixing cars, doing car repair and paint jobs and collision repair, that's what I'm trying to say. And at the end of the night, they had 5 trailers, about 27 feet, 24 feet, whatever they are, and 5 cabs, five trucks parked there. They were making all kinds of noise. They were yelling. They were talking to each other, disrupting the whole street. And so anyway, I lost my train of thought. Hold on. So okay, and then that went on until about 8 o'clock. And I looked them up, and it's called C. Bermudas is the name of the trucking company.
Okay.
And they have a business on, starts with a P. I I said, I can't read these notes anymore. Anyway, they have a business on another street here in the city. I don't understand why they're parking. Well, I take that back, I did find out. So I found out, anyway, they were there late at night, early in the morning, making noise the last few days. And then on top of that, they're diesel engines. So they're messing up our air, which is not making me very happy because I'm really feeling it in my lungs. And my neighbor, who's very sick, I don't know how she is. I haven't seen her in a couple of days. So I'm kind of concerned about her. But anyway, I found out, though, that the owner of this property over there has actually been renting out the property. There's a bunch of places back there that have like a fence, they're fenced, and he's renting out these things for truck drivers to store their trucks and to park them at night. So, which is the reason that our street is such a mess, with all those tonnages of trucks coming back and forth. So my question to you is, can you check into this? Is it legal?
Yeah, okay.
Does it happen every night, or just,
Well, I found out from the manager that it's been going on for years at the end of the street, okay, or toward Rosecrans. But in front of us, it's been going on since Friday. And they didn't do it Sunday. 2 trucks moved out. But they started at 5 o'clock this morning. And I don't know what they're going to be doing the rest of the
we'll
week.
look into it and get back to you. I'll find out what it is, at least.
Okay.
And if we need to stop them, we'll stop them. I don't know what, I have no idea what it is. I'll look into it.
I don't really know what it is. Oh, I take that back. They said, the managers of my park, they said that the guy that's doing this, he has a big lot on the lots, and he's putting concrete or something. He's putting something in there for
We're
them
going
to
to check the
truck.
business license on Bermuda's Trucking and then find out where they're located, and we'll double back and see where it is, where it comes from. So,
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Letourneau. You're back?
I'm back. Hope
It's
everything's going good with you guys.
It's 2 meetings back to back, huh?
I am, huh?
All right.
Well, I made a plan. I'm going to come once a month,
Okay.
you know, I know, huh?
Well, we missed you for a long time.
Okay. Anyways, a couple of things I want to first give you some compliments on, okay? Compliments is that you guys are going to have that street fair, you know, Parks and Recreation. So I compliment you very much on that. I've checked with other cities, and Bellflower is really one of the few cities who actually have a 4-time during the summertime. Lakewood has a Pan American, which is like 3 days. Paramont's only having one thing there that I've talked to. So that's very, very good. I commend you on that very much, okay? We're going to have a booth there, and our goal is that we're going to promote about 400 businesses in Bellflower.
Well, how about the movie nights? Do you like it too?
The which one?
The movie nights.
Yeah, the movie nights is good, okay? But you can't have a booth there, right? On the movie nights. It's basically just a movie, right? You're watching. So that is a very good thing too.
All right.
That Bellflower. And then I know that's, I think with the Lions Club, the car fair, car show thing.
Car show.
Yeah. So that's very, very good. So I commend you on that, okay? Second thing, the reason why I haven't been here is I've been traveling a lot around the country of, you know, purchasing houses and everything, okay? What I've realized now, if you know, Detroit right now is the 5th fastest growing city in the United States right now, okay? And the reason why they've been bringing a lot of businesses into Detroit, not all of Detroit area, okay? But what the city has done, okay, they've cracked down on vacant buildings and vacant business also, okay? I hate to say it, you have a lot of empty businesses here, okay? And unless you start putting pressure, and I don't like to say that per se, on the empty buildings to make the owner start leasing the business out like they should, or getting somebody into the business, it's not going to change. And that's what Detroit did, okay? On that. Detroit, basically, when you buy a house there, if it's an empty house, you got to register it with the city. If it's an empty building or if it's an empty office, you got to register with the city and pay a fee. And you have a time limit to make sure that that business is not empty no more. Not 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. You know, look at that one that we knocked down behind Sizzler, that empty building that happened. I mean, it's probably been empty, it was empty probably for 10 years or longer, okay, on that. And there's other buildings here I see that's been empty for years and years and years, and the owners don't care because they know appreciation's going up. As long as appreciation's going up, they're still making money. But it doesn't help your community or anything. But that's the good news and a little bad news.
Okay.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, while,
Yes, Mr.
while he's
Garza.
walking away, and I don't know if Fred's going to come up or not, but I'm glad he brought that up. One of the things that I found out about when the last year, I think, was I had heard something similar to that occurring in the city of La Mirada. I think the city of La Mirada has some sort of ordinance that is similar to that. So
Yeah.
I'd be interested in figuring out, to see if our staff, they can look into that and see pros and cons on that. I'm very interested, so.
I think we can take a look into that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right. No more? That's it? All right. Moving along. Item 11A, Mr. Stewart.
This is a consideration of possible action to conduct a public hearing to consider adopting resolution number 19-10, a resolution adopting a medical cannabis business application fee for processing additional medical cannabis business permits for current permittees and restating all fees related to the MCBP process pursuant to Bellflower Municipal Code 14.08.060.
Mr. Mayor, before we proceed, I'd like to ask to be recused from this item due to an employer-client relationship conflict.
Okay, let the record reflect that Mayor Pro Tem Garza is recusing himself on item 11A. All right, Ms. Stover.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the Bellflower City Council.
Is your microphone on?
Let me start over.
There we
Sorry.
go.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of Bellflower City Council. This evening, I'm bringing forward Agenda Item 11A, a public hearing to consider adopting a processing fee for additional testing medical cannabis business permits application review. The fee would be a non-refundable fee of $12,873.12. It would be available for current MCBP and CUP permittees to be eligible to apply for this additional use if they have the space at the currently approved CUP locations and can meet all conditions of approval. Here is the breakdown of the fees for the application review process. As you can see, this is a lesser fee because there would be no fees for the CUP review. Each location would already have a CUP. One of the reasons the staff is recommending approval of these testing laboratory uses would be to collect tax revenues and fees. Testing laboratories would allow the city to collect an additional 5% of gross receipts. These MCBP holders would have to pay the annual $26,000, which is in 2019, the annual education fee, and all applicable business license and cannabis taxes pursuant to the Bellflower Municipal Code. Resolution 19-10 would establish the non-refundable fee of $12,873.12. And this resolution also consolidates previously adopted fees into this one resolution to make it more clear when we go back for ease of reference. And that's all I have for my public hearing. I'm available for any questions you may have.
All right, thank you for your presentation. I just have a few questions. One is, right now we have 5 MCBPs, correct?
Yes.
5 plus 2.
Right now, we have 5 CUPs
CUPs plus
Correct.
2
that are
that were not
Renewed.
renewed last December. Okay, so
Correct.
potentially 7.
correct.
Okay, so so each licensee, so to speak, they can set up their own testing facility.
If they have the
If they-
available
if they-
space.
Space, okay.
And they meet state code.
And it's get state code, okay. Do they have to be located in the same premises as the existing CUP?
It does have to be at the same CUP location. There would be no additional CUPs issued.
Okay.
Yes, they have to be existing premises. The plan was, we didn't think through and didn't even go as far as thinking about additional testing facilities outside of the additional permitted areas, and we'll revisit that some other time if we need to, but right now we just want to see if there's an interest in a way that we can get some testing facilities in town, because I understand there's a shortage, and those are good jobs that are paid in a technical facility, and we're not increasing the actual production of cannabis coming from the existing permits on this.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I would imagine that testing needs to be independent, right?
Yes.
Basically, let's say licensee A cannot test their own products, so to
That
speak.
is correct,
It has
according
go
to
a
state
license-
code.
To another facility.
Correct.
Okay. Now, in looking at the proposal here, I can see that testing, if we allow testing, because we know we committed to have only a maximum of 12
Correct.
licenses. If we increase it with the number of licenses for testing, but in effect, we're not adding any more products into the community, because these are just being tested.
They're being tested, yes, at these facilities.
We're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, because that's going to be the next item.
Oh, that's
So
the next item,
This
okay.
is just the fees.
Okay,
So
okay.
the questions you've just asked carry through to the next item, and then we'll continue to ask
Okay.
questions there. What we're really talking about here is the fees.
All right, go
yeah.
back, can you go back to the previous slide?
Unless you want to combine both items and discuss them together.
Well, whatever is more
One's a public
efficient.
hearing.
So this
though.
was just the public hearing to establish a fee and then,
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Now, going back to the first bullet point, where you have the fees,
this,
no,
Here.
there you go. When you say 5% of gross receipts, since there's no sale involved, how do you define gross receipts?
The fees, the testing fees charged by the labs.
Oh, by the labs?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Gross sales and.
So that's our sales.
receipts.
it's
Whatever fee
technically
they
sales,
charge to
right.
test.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, very good. That's all I have for now. Any question for Ms. Stover?
Yeah, I do.
Councilmember Dutton?
How many just parcels do we have that are cannabis permitted?
at this point, there are 5.
There's 5. So with this item, there would only be 5 locations potentially for testing.
At this time, yes. So there are 5 CUPs that
Right.
are active currently.
Right.
There were 7.
There was, okay. And and the entity of the medical cannabis continuous use permitted property, can they sublet, contract out for another testing facility to come on site?
We believe so. We've not found the regulation that says no. However, I have heard, and at least somebody has told us, that they can't do it. It has to be a separate parcel. So I think we found a workaround if that's a requirement, if it is indeed a separate parcel on an existing property. I think the city attorney could walk through the process on that. But again, this is an opportunity to establish it as long as they meet state guidelines, and we want to facilitate that. We would develop some admin guidelines to get them through that process, however we need to, and come back for council approval.
But so I guess the existing medical cannabis permittee and conditional use permit, see, testing to me is more of they may not have the expertise into testing. They can hire an outside independent facility to come in, and then they just charge rent for them
Correct.
to
Yes.
do that.
That's exactly
That's
what
what
would
I'm
have to
getting
happen, because they can't run the testing
Can't run,
facility
yeah, they
themselves.
can't
Yeah,
run
they
it
can't
themselves,
test their
yeah.
own
Has to be an
product.
independent.
Independent
Yeah.
on their facility, okay. That's all I have for the moment.
Okay, thank you. You had a
comfortable,
further
Peter?
question?
Are you comfortable?
Mr. Armada, go ahead.
Just waiting.
Peter, are you okay? Okay.
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Mr.
Mayor.
Armada, go ahead.
Well, first off, staff, thank you for the report, and I think it's pretty straightforward. Maybe my comment is just more of the transparency. So I just wanted to mention, since I've been on the council, I've been getting quite a bit of education on cannabis. And now as it progresses, we're now, looking at testing. and so it's something else that's come forward. But I just wanted to mention, because I didn't know where it may have been headed, but, again, part of my process is to be educated on the matter. And one thing, if it was possible to actually go see these, and at this point, I have not been able to go see them, because since the last meeting, I did receive a call from one of the consultants, Steve Macon, and again, he invited me to, check out one of the sites and just to get educated. Now, I haven't been able to find anybody else to go with me, so I did not decide to do that. But I was able to see at least a picture, and then I've heard that staff has pictures of some of the facilities, and it appears to be done well. So to me, that's part of the education process. And so I just wanted to disclose that. And because I didn't know where this, maybe that could have been, potentially headed to maybe a future testing site. So I don't know. So that's why I just take this opportunity to at least disclose that. So at this point, still trying to get educated on it, and if it's necessary to actually, again, see some of these sites, then so be it. But for now, with pictures and seeing that things look in order, again, but again, a picture is just a snapshot of just a moment at one point in time in that office. So again, I think I do see that, again, what the key point is that they don't get the test themselves. It's got to be outside.
Correct.
So that's the key point that I focused on. And I think for now, it's something that, again, needed to start filling that picture in, because there's still, maybe down the road, there's going to be some more pieces missing. So it's a dynamic process. And so, all right. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Coops?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So tell us, refresh our memory. We indicated there are 5 active permits that this could be applicable to.
Current CUPs, yes.
CUPs that this is applicable to. Go over that list with me, please.
Yes.
I know that Calcan and Caliva were revoked, but go over the 5 that remain.
And this is part of the next presentation, but I do have a list here. So for testing, potentially, possible application opportunities would exist for Medicine Woman, EEL Holdings, Joint Forces, CaliMed, and BB&Y Logistics. Okay. Medicine Woman is 9058 Rose Street. EEL Holdings is 9032 through 903 Artesia. Joint Forces is 10040 Artesia Place. CaliMed is 15106 Clark and 9426 Somerset, the corner. And BB&Y Logistics is 8832 Ramona Street.
Okay. I just wanted the council to be reminded of where we are now currently, and that would be appropriate. So I was looking at the attachment, the resolution 19-10, where it lists how we came up with the $12,873.12.
Yes.
Now, the biggest part of that is our good friends at Meridian Consultants.
Yes.
37,500 divided by 5. Now, what would be their role in going forward if we do this? How will they help us?
They will collect the applications as they have done in the past and review them, prepare staff reports, and all of the information.
The same review process we did with the previous CUP recipients. So they'd receive.
Personally, I wasn't impressed by their work before.
No, their work was fine.
Well, that's just a personal opinion.
I know.
Now, and we're all entitled to say
I
that.
understand.
When they look at the applications, they're looking at it in terms of how it's been filled out and it's accurate, and they actually write the staff report. Is that my?
They do help.
The city staff doesn't write the report. They write the report.
They write the report, and then they provide it to staff, and we go over it together.
Now, do they do, I was surprised when they did not do what I believe would be background checks when we were in the initial process. Has that changed at all? Or they still are not involved in checking to make sure the applications are congruent with what is actually is reality. Who audits that?
What do you mean? I mean, I'm
Well,
sorry.
you remember the night case in point, remember when Medicine Woman was up in front? And our city attorney went online and says, well, you know, they have had a few faux pas here. And that came to as a surprise to all of us. And I think even a surprise to Meridian, because that was not what they were hired to do, right?
Yeah, they weren't charged to do that. That was incidental information we sort of discovered on the fly.
Right.
And since then, that's now totally legal. We have no jurisdiction over.
Now, how do we keep that from happening again? What?
It could. The rules change, things change daily with regard to how the state regulates these things. You know, all we're trying to do is make sure that our skirts are clean in the process on reviewing and administering the local medical cannabis business permit, MCBP.
And all I want to know is that the people that are being considered for this lab are indeed giving us truthful information. That's all I'm asking. How do we can audit this? Or are we just taking it at their good word?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, perhaps I can hopefully add some
Go ahead.
additional thoughts on this, which is I think that the rules that were originally established by the city council with regard to background checks had to do with criminal background checks, fingerprinting, ensuring that the principals in each of the companies had not engaged in crimes of moral turpitude. The question that arose during the public hearing from the mayor, council member at the time, was whether or not any of the applicants had ever engaged in basically a violation of local ordinances within other jurisdictions. If there were such violations, they wouldn't have shown up on a criminal background check because it could have been prosecuted through a civil nuisance abatement action, for example, or administrative citations or things along those lines. At the beginning of the process, that was not one of the issues that was listed as a question or part of the background check for the applicants. If that's something that the council wishes to add on, we can certainly add that on as part of the criteria. And the next item would be the time to do that, to add into the resolution background check with regard to violations of local codes and regulations, and we can certainly do that. But going back to the original question that you posed, Mr. Coops, I don't believe that Meridian ever performed that task, and I did indeed go on the computer during that public hearing, but that was specifically in response to a question that was posed by Mr. Senez. So that's how that
Well,
that
and that's
came
why I
around.
was bringing it up now. I see that's what the biggest part of what the expense of the 12,000 is their $7,500.
Right.
And what were they doing to earn their money?
Well,
I
and
learned what they didn't do to earn their money.
And consider also, there wasn't a city in that group that was willing to step up and say, yeah, they violated our ordinance. They all just, you know, yeah, we have that ordinance, but we don't know if they're doing that or not.
No, I get it. but
There was
we
no
had the-
enforcement, yeah.
I forget the name of the couple that were on Lakewood Boulevard. They had some skeletons in the closet as well, remember?
Yes, and they voluntarily relinquished the permit that had been awarded to them based upon that, following a revocation hearing, and they surrendered it. But the point goes back to, if this is something that the council wants us to look into, it's going to actually take more time because we would have to contact each individual jurisdiction, and they may, again, these violations may not have been prosecuted as criminal violations. They may have been prosecuted, just as the example that you gave, as a civil injunction against their ongoing operations, and that wouldn't show up in a criminal background check. That would only show up if we contacted the individual jurisdictions in order to make a litigation check, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. But I do know that, Sonny, you posed the question.
Yep.
Are you telling the truth?
Yep.
And that's,
And somebody lied. Okay, somebody lied.
that's all I
More than
know.
once.
And I just want to piggyback on your question because there's one more point that I think that has merit also. Because part of the process is at some point in time we verified the registration of the company. Remember, there was a company name, and they
Corporate name.
submitted two corporate names. One is no longer in good standing with the state. I think that's something that they should be able to verify.
And at the time of the application, again, this goes back to, I think what Mr. Stewart was alluding to, which is at the time of the application, those checks are made with Secretary of State and what have you. as you saw during the process, there were, and in fact, we just received an inquiry today, I think it was, whether or not the corporate structures of these various companies could be restructured in order to accommodate a financing request. The council has been very clear that there cannot be any transfer of a permit from one company to another company. So at the time that the application comes in, those checks are made. You have ABC Corp. You check with the Secretary of State. ABC Corp is in good standing. But the nature of these businesses, I think, similar to many other LLCs and what have you, is over time those LLCs either change in the composition of the principals or they try to change their name. So really, there has to be an additional check right before the public hearing to ensure that everything that was in the application that was submitted a month or 2 months before is indeed accurate at that point. So going back to Mr. Coops's point, that's certainly something that we can do, but that
It's not something we could have anticipated at the time.
No, I know,
Right, yeah,
it was a
yeah.
strong learning curve.
Right, yeah.
But since we had the advantage of having done this for a year, I thought we should utilize what we've learned.
Yeah, and I think we will. I mean, especially, I don't think that the breakdown, well, there's no breakdown. It's just the fact is, we didn't ask all the right questions at the beginning. I think we're asking more of the right questions now. I don't think we'll see the messiness we saw before on a go-forward basis.
No, and I do think that and that's why I asked about the list of the people that are still being considered. They've already been vetted pretty well.
Correct.
I really don't need, and that's why I was asking what Calumet did, because, I mean, not Calumet, from Meridian.
Except that, remember, if there is a new testing facility comes in, it can't be the same group. They're leasing space out or selling space or whatever they need to do to this testing group to get that group in. And we definitely want to look into them and background and make sure that they're legitimate.
So, and that was asked earlier, so
Yeah.
we're looking for this testing facility to be a part of an existing CUP, but it may be an outside operator. It may not be the operator.
It has to be an outside operator.
It has to be an outside operator.
Right.
So those would be the ones that we'd want to find out had any baggage.
Correct. That's right.
Because I don't think, we've done enough with what we have
No,
here now.
you're exactly right. And
This
those are the
is
ones
fine.
we are looking into, the excess baggage with them.
And that's why the fee is lower.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we're not reinventing the wheel.
No, that's what I
We're
didn't
going with what
want
we
to do.
know. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
No, but if we were to do those additional testing, would that increase their time to basically vet the applicants? This background check, corporate structure, all these things that needs to be vetted?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand the
No, what
question.
I'm saying is, if we add these additional requirements to verify the background checks, whether it's on a corporate level or personal level, whether they've been
Civil
other
problems.
civil problems, things like that.
I think
so there's
we
going to
can-
be a lot of background check. My question is, will that take more time?
I don't think we would fall on them. That's the kind of thing I think we'd handle in-house. Those kinds of checks. I don't think we need to add more to the plate for Meridian. I think they are going to do enough. And I think as far as the backup that you're looking at, those kinds of things we can do.
And do you have the staffing to do that?
Sure. I mean, it's not that much. We're talking about 5 permits here. We're not talking about hours and hours worth of work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mayor, I'd like to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Dunn and seconded by Councilmember Hamada to open the public hearing. There being no objection, that will be the order. Anyone who would like to speak about this item?
I'd like to ask a question of clarification from my own mind. What you're saying, I believe, is that each of these entities that have a license, the 5 of them, would be offering a space on their premises.
We're saying that the current CUP permitted entities, 5 of them, have the opportunity to lease space out for independent testing or to sell space for independent testing. We don't think all 5 can do it.
Right.
I mean, I suspect we might get a handful max.
Okay,
Yeah.
that kind of clears it up, I think, on where I was getting at, because I was concerned with leasing the space out and having too much of a conflict of interest. It should be on a separate piece of
On
property.
the top of my head, I
right?
can only think of 2 that I know for a fact have the space. There may be more, but
And
that's.
if it is a separate CUP and all that separate business, why isn't it a separate piece of property totally? Then there's no conflict of interest between friendship.
They have to be completely independent of each other, the relationship.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but who can be independent when my neighbor next door is my testing agency? It doesn't work that way in business.
Well, it has to. I mean,
It doesn't. Business doesn't work that way.
they're regulated by the state.
I'm
they
a
have to do
business
that.
person, and I'm telling you, I'm a
Okay.
crook. So, so that's the way
What did you
business
say,
operates. If you operate 100% legitimate, you'll never be in business.
Oh, my, okay.
That's a fact.
No wonder you don't operate.
He said it.
Bellflower.
That's right.
Is the tape recorder on?
They tried to pay me with a check. But you gotta look at it with common sense.
I believe,
I'm a
and I've
business
been wrong
person.
before, but I believe there's
Most
enough
of you
safe.
people aren't business people, so you don't understand what the business, how a business operates.
I believe there are
Everybody's on the
enough,
cuff.
the way that, if you look at the guidelines, the way it's regulated, and the way they have to track each of the things that are tested, each of the items, I believe there's enough safeguards built in to keep them all honest.
Well, see, I got your mind stirred up.
Entertaining, too.
All right, anyone else?
Mayor, not seeing anybody. I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Dunn, seconded by Councilmember Hamada to close the public hearing. Without objection, that will be the order. My question is, we know that we capped the number of licensees to 12, right? The permits to 12. And with this proposal, we're still adding more permits.
This item is just the fee. The next item you're going to see is more germane to that question.
Okay.
Yeah. And then,
What
and let me answer it now
what-
for you,
what
so there's no
item?
mysteries.
What
So
item?
our I think where you're headed with this is, our belief is that we cap the initial number of dispensaries, mainly at 4 and 12 total, to limit the amount of product that was going to be produced and sold in Bellflower. By testing, this is not adding to the production or selling of any product in Bellflower. Testing, in fact, is a regulatory process that helps ensure that the product that is being sold is actually of good quality.
But you're adding a license, right? You're adding MCBP.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at.
But
We're
it's
adding.
it's a regulatory as opposed to a production MCBP, is what I think I'm saying.
So either way, we're adding, no matter what.
Correct.
We're adding
There's no doubt about
potentially, in this case, could be 7 more.
We are adding
7 more.
We are adding
potentially.
MCBPs to the total
Okay.
of 12. But we are not adding to the production or the retail capacity of cannabis in the community with those additional.
Right.
MCBPs.
We're not, because they're just testing it. There's
Correct.
nothing new is being introduced into the community. Whatever's
Correct.
produced here, whatever's grown here is going to be here.
Correct. If anything, it's a more stringent, more regulatory process that helps ensure that the product that is on the street is of a higher quality.
Right, because even if, let's say, a manufacturer in another city wants to be tested here, we're not adding it here. It's
We
going
hope
to go back to different community.
If we move forward with this, we hope that is, so we can, because of the tax that we're collecting on that, we hopefully do it because it increases the revenues we'd receive. So we hope we get all of Long Beach's and Paramounts and everybody else that's sold.
No, what I'm getting at is, I think are we making it complicated for the current licensee because they need to carve out space for this testing? Correct?
We are, right. I think what we're doing is taking the path of least resistance. We are making it easy for those that have the space to do this and get their additional licenses. And we're not adding to the locations where there'd be a cannabis-related business in the city. We're being sensitive to the folks that don't want to expand that footprint any further than it's already expanded.
Okay.
If anything, and the short answer, I don't know, I'm not exactly sure what you're asking, but if anything, this is an additional opportunity to the current MCBPs that have the resources, the space, yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Because we're not introducing any more products here.
No more
they're
products.
just basically, they come in, they go out, and that's it, we're done.
Correct,
And we collect the fee.
correct.
All right, any other comments? Are we good?
Yeah, I know what you meant. I understand what you were trying to say, is he didn't want to choke the moneymakers out. That's what he was trying to do. Yeah, yeah.
Well, no, what I'm
Because
getting-
technically we have 8, and if we give out 2 more dispensaries that were revoked, that didn't renew, and then that's 10, and then if we get 4 testing labs, then it's capped at 12. That's what he's worried about. If it goes over 12.
We cannot go over 12.
But we'll go over 12,
Yeah.
yeah. We'll go over 12 because it's not intrusive. The testing is not intrusive to the
No, but what
community.
I'm getting at here is, I'm more concerned, hold on. I know, but we need to kind of settle this, because I'm more concerned about the space. Because if the space is tight now in some locations, because they cannot even do, well, they can do dispensary, they can do manufacturing, but in some cases, they cannot do testing. There's no more space available.
Right.
So are we limiting ourselves in terms of the potential for money?
Perhaps, and maybe later on, we want to expand that footprint and allow testing labs at other locations in the city. We're trying to be sensitive to the folks that had stood up and said they want to kind of limit this, so.
So if that's the case, why don't we just look into this as a totally independent entity? Totally independent, just add more licenses.
But then there'd be no place to put them because they wouldn't be permitted anywhere else but on the current MCBP sites under the current regulations that we
Have we
have.
maxed out already in terms of space?
No, but I mean, the end of the day, what
I'm
you're
just
doing
exploring
is,
ideas here. I'm
what you're
exploring
doing
ideas.
is, I think what you're doing is, we want to allow the current businesses that have CUPs, have been vetted, we know them, basically, not always pleased with them, but we know them, and we want to allow them the opportunity to enhance their business model. And in addition, provide a needed regulatory service for the cannabis industry. If what I think you're saying is we open that up, then you're talking about a new application process with new applicants. Well, I think that then you might be choking out the folks that we're trying to do, that are trying to make the businesses go here.
Okay,
That's what I'd be afraid of on that.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so based on what you know now, how many potentially could be eligible for
Five.
testing
Five.
because of their?
5 CUPs.
Five additional max because of the.
No, but in terms of space though,
Right, space and setup and what they have going.
are they all eligible right now? Because we have five, all of them can accommodate testing?
We don't know.
I
mean,
don't know.
We don't know how big a space that is. The room that I've seen, the only testing room I've seen was a very small room, 15 by 20. It's not a big room. So, I mean, maybe it's bigger, but some places, I don't know. But I mean, that's not for us to decide. That's for the industry to decide whether it's viable or not.
Okay, so how will this work out in terms of the permitting process? So they have an existing CUP. Are we be giving additional CUP or they will be using an existing CUP?
Using the existing CUP.
There's
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, can I just refocus? This agenda item only has to do with adopting a
Yeah,
fee.
we need to get beyond this item so we can get these questions
the
in the
next-
next item.
But it's kind of related though, because if we allow this, my question is,
Then-
will it affect the current CUP?
Then my suggestion is to table this item to discuss the other item and then come back to it and decide whether or not to adopt the fee.
Because they're connected.
All
They
this
are
item
connected,
is a
absolutely.
fee. If we don't get to, a conclusion on the next item, the fee is pointless. So all we're going to do is adopt the fee. If we don't get to a resolution to the next item, it doesn't really matter. So, but we need to have the next discussion, which is where you're headed with.
Right.
Yeah, these questions.
Well, we can adopt this fee, Sonny.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion. I feel like a motion.
Are you in motion?
Let's see where I'm at. I'd like to adopt Resolution 19-10, establishing the process fee of $12,873.12 for additional testing MCBP applications.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Dutton, seconded by Councilmember Coops, for the City Council of Bellflower to adopt Resolution 19-10. Just final question, Mr. Stewart. Is this sufficient to cover the cost of,
With the exception of the work that we're going to do, it's sufficient to recover the cost of doing the background work on the
So-
additional applicants.
so how do we cover that additional cost?
Oh, we don't. It's part of, staff does a variety of day-to-day duties now, and we don't need to recover that cost. We're fine on it. Yeah.
Okay, you're fine with that, okay.
And Mr. Mayor, members of the council, since you're on a roll, my suggestion would be to take up item 13B, since it's related to this item, and
13B.
you've already been
What did I miss
discussing
on
it.
All right, we can do that. Roll call, please, before we leave this item.
On 13A, right?
No, 11A.
I mean 11A,
We're
yeah.
gonna vote on 11A first.
11A, right.
Councilmember Dutton,
Aye.
Councilmember Amata,
Aye.
Councilmember Coops,
Aye.
Mayor Santenaz.
Aye. All right, we're gonna
Gonna jump ahead.
we sequence the agenda items. We're going to be jumping into 13A.
Because we can't get enough of this. This is so much fun. But
13, or
13B.
13B.
We'll do
13B.
13B.
Yes, and just for the record, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Councilmember Garza is conflicted on this one as well.
Okay, let the record reflect that Councilmember Garza is continuing his recusal from this discussion.
And this one is entitled Consideration of Possible Action to Adopt Resolution 19-13, amending in entirety Resolution number 18-05, a resolution implementing Title 14 of the Bellflower Municipal Code by establishing policies and procedures for medical cannabis business permits, application requirements, minimum qualifications for MCBPs, the number of available MCBPs, MCBP renewals, and applying for reconsideration of denied MCB permits. Ms. Stover will do a brief PowerPoint presentation for you.
All right, thank you. I am bringing forward item 13B. As Mr. Stewart said, consideration to adopt resolution 19-13, amending in entirety resolution 18-15. In this item, there are a few main changes that I would like to highlight in this presentation. First, this resolution would add an ability from the council to allow currently permitted manufacturing and/or cultivation CUP and MCBP permittees to apply for a distribution permit at the current location. Second, this resolution could add the ability for the City Council to reconsider previously denied MCBP applications upon making particular findings. I'd like to highlight some of those findings that were in this resolution. Number one would be that there would be no material changes in the business structure, owners, or financial status of the previous permittee. Two, that the CUP remains in place for the location proposed to conduct commercial cannabis operations. Three, that the applicant is offering substantial changes to its previously denied applications in the form of either A, improved aesthetics, B, improved tax revenue opportunities, or C, accelerated schedule for opening. And another third change would be to implement this, it would be necessary to increase the total number of MCBPs. And we did want to note that there would be no change to the total number of dispensary MCBPs. Or manufacturing, correct. This is the breakdown that you can see. There are currently 10 approved MCBPs at 5 CUP locations. This is the possible application opportunities. There are 3 current MCBP holders of cultivation or manufacturing permits that could possibly apply for distribution permits. Those include EEL Holdings, CaliMed, and BB&Y Logistics. There are 5 current CUPs that could possibly apply for applications for testing, which include the Medicine Woman, EEL Holdings, Joint Forces, CaliMed, BB&Y Logistics. There are also 2 dispensary permits that were not renewed.
And the reason that Medicine Woman and Joint Forces are not in the distribution column is because they already have a distribution permits.
That's correct, Mayor. So as you can see, the breakdown at the bottom here, currently approved MCBs is 10. The possible maximum could be 12, which could give a total maximum of 22. We do believe that the number will be less since there are only 7 existing CUP locations. And that's what I have for this item.
Okay, can you go back to the first slide? There you go. So if a cultivator sells the raw materials, the buds, the flowers, to another entity, is that distribution?
That's not what we can consider distribution. That would be transporting it or moving it to that facility for that process.
Okay. So if that's the case, if you go back to the chart of who's got the licenses, so that means that BB&Y cannot qualify for distribution because they're only
They currently have,
cultivation only at this point. So they cannot apply for distribution permit.
at this point, we don't have, they haven't applied for it because it hasn't been eligible for them
No,
to
no, but
apply for.
But they couldn't apply anyway because they're not entitled, they could not distribute because they're only producing, they're only cultivating, they're only harvesting, and,
They could still distribute. So it doesn't have to be their own product.
oh, they have to come from some other products, some other producers, okay. But on their own, from what they grow, they cannot
No, they
distribute.
could still distribute what they grow as well, but any manufactured goods would have to come from somewhere else.
No, again, my question, is that called distribution? If they harvest the buds and the flowers and things like that, and they sell it to a customer, is that called distribution?
What's it called?
No, I'm asking the question.
It's called distribution. They have to work through distribution.
Because they
firm.
got several customers and
Yeah.
distribution.
It's not a finished product, it's raw materials.
No,
I'm-
they're buds that are smoked in different apparatus. Then if you go to a cannabis facility, I would say it's probably, I don't even know,
Is that,
60/40.
is that the intent? Because
Sure.
I like what you're saying, because
Yeah.
we can collect more and
Yeah,
more
no,
money.
surely it's intent. I mean, there's a lot of just marijuana that's raw, basically, that people buy and smoke at home or do whatever they do. But there's also a lot of product that's made with the DAP or the wax that's cultivated or manufactured from marijuana.
No, but when you talk about distribution, it's basically business to business. You're not talking about selling from a producer to
They have to, the guidelines
end user.
The guidelines require they work through a distributor. They do that, a distribution firm, to move their product from one place to the next.
Because I want to clarify that, because if what you're saying is true, then we can collect more taxes.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay?
That's the idea here. Yeah.
No, from cultivator, distribution, to manufacturer, distribution again, and dispensary, and it's just,
The reason why we want to do
no,
distribution.
I want to make sure that is correct, that's called distribution, because it seems like it's only going from a harvest to a manufacturer.
Goes to harvest to a distributor who either then sells it to
No,
dispensaries.
it's not, okay. Well, I'm just not hypothetical because I haven't tried it, so I don't know what I'm talking about here. So if BBY harvested their buds and flowers and things like that, and they sold that to, let's say, joint forces.
They can't sell it directly. They're not allowed, under the state guidelines, they're not allowed to sell it directly to
No,
joint
but you
forces.
say, well, once we have the distribution permit, they can sell it to another entity. Is that right?
They can sell it to a distributor who will sell it to another enemy.
To a distributor.
Yeah.
So it's not distribution then. That's what I'm getting at.
Okay,
What they're doing is not distribution.
okay. It's a middleman, that's what it is.
What do we call that? What do we call that?
Distributors, yeah.
Okay,
Can you
that's a
answer the
question that
question?
That's
I
the
need,
terminology.
I need to pose that question.
There's somebody out there that will probably answer your
Yeah,
question.
these guys that do the business, they'll tell you.
I'll tell you.
Well, let me open it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm getting at that, you know what I'm getting at,
I know what
right?
you're getting at,
Okay,
yeah.
but if that is true, then I like your idea. So, all right, next question. Where am I? Can you go back to the last chart? Is it the last chart? Oh, no, the previous one. Oh, this is the
one that had
CUP.
22 was the
No,
last
number two. So, where you stated, Randy, about the 18 months, during the past 18 months, whoever's not, they were denied in the last 18
Not
months.
renewed.
Not
right?
renewed.
Not renewed.
Not renewed or denied?
Entities whose CUP was not renewed during the previous 18 months will have the opportunity to apply for reconsideration.
Were not renewed, or how about those who did not qualify, well,
Not counting, not included,
on the first run?
not included. If they're, yeah,
Yeah,
if
everybody's included. The way
they
I
didn't
read
have a CUP though.
No, they were given CUP.
They have to have a current CUP.
it. Keyword, you have to have a current CUP.
Oh,
Okay,
If
that's
they
what
have
I was
CUP
getting at. That's what I
Okay,
was
if they have a
getting at.
CUP in the
Yeah.
18 months, yes, they're
Yeah.
allowed to reapply.
Because there was a location on Artesia who got the CUP but didn't
Correct,
come
you're right.
back.
Right.
So that's correct. So they are, if they received the CUP and the CUP was not renewed.
It was revoked December of 2018.
Well, not revoked, but not
Okay,
renewed.
not renewed.
Yeah.
They cannot.
They have the opportunity to reapply.
But the one on Artesia, I think it had a
Wait a minute.
split conflict.
But there's going to be,
At a-
I
Miss-
thought that the CUP should be in place.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the CUP runs with the land. So
I'm
if the
sorry, the
CUP was provided in December 2017, then whomever received that CUP also would have had a permit issued to them in order to operate, presumably, in 2018.
The MCBP, that was the, I lost the term.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So the issue here is, this particular resolution allows for a former permittee, or former applicant for an MCBP, who was either granted a CUP but denied the MCBP, or granted the CUP and had a renewal of the permit denied, to reapply or to apply for a reconsideration of their application, either for the initial MCBP or for the denial, for the denial of the renewal MCBP. But there always has to be a CUP in place. So
Right,
this is
okay.
not reopening the entire process again. This is only for locations that were granted a CUP.
So that being said, most likely we're going to have only 2 applicants in this case?
I can't tell you off the top of my head, but I do know that 2 applicants were denied a renewal, so those.
Right.
those
No, I'm
indeed-
getting at about that applicant on Artesia, where the lady came begging for us
She was
to
not
take her
granted,
money,
she was not granted an MCBP.
but she was given the CUP back
She
then.
had a CUP, I think.
Right.
So
Okay.
she could reapply for an MCBP if there was a valid CUP that was issued. We haven't revoked any CUPs. We haven't gone down that path yet.
Are you talking about, sorry, the Artesia,
West of Lakewood.
See, that one was conflicted out from the radius. The time we got there a year ago.
Because of the one.
Because of the Ramona
BEL.
Street one. I
Yeah,
think there was
BEL.
1,000 feet radius.
They still have to meet all those requirements.
Yeah.
And they
Okay,
still
so-
have to meet the new
Still have to
ones.
meet the
So they may
contract.
not come back for at this point, because we already
If-
have.
You can't predict what
There's-
they're going to do.
This does not reopen for a new application for a CUP. This is only an application for an MCBP that was denied, or an MCB initial denial, or an MCBP renewal that was denied.
Okay. All
So
right.
under all circumstances, they would have to have a valid CUP for that location, which means that it limits it to 7 locations, right? 7 locations,
7.
right.
Yes.
There's 7 CUPs? I thought there was only 5.
Oh,
7 with it counting the 2, right, yeah,
Five
okay,
MC
7.
five
The 2
MCBPs.
denials ones, yeah,
Yeah.
right, okay.
Okay, that's all I have for now. All right. Any question for,
Yes, Mr.
yes,
Mayor,
Mr. Armada, go ahead.
yes, being the new guy again, thank you for the clarification, I think, of all the, I think what I'm thinking, all right, so we're thinking 22 potential total max.
Max.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about the 2 that were denied or not
Revoked.
renewed, revoked, whichever word that we're going to properly use. When it comes back to reapplication, just think about, timing on, do those 2 have any priority to, it'll be all together at once, everybody? And I'm just trying to think of, as you get to, filling the 22 with everything, I'm just thinking how these 2, I mean, they have CUPs.
Should the,
Right, so
Yeah.
this slide here shows
So-
dispensary XX and dispensary
Yeah.
XX.
no, I think what he's saying is
Yeah.
if the 2,
The two-
if the 2 reapply, and if some or both are granted a new MCBP, could they then come in and apply for the secondary distribution license and testing? The answer is yes, they
Yeah.
could.
Yes.
Yeah,
All right, I'm just thinking about their timing of it.
right. And it would be later, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I do think that it's important from a practical standpoint to have 2 separate application procedures. One is an application for reconsideration of the renewal or the initial MCBP.
And then the secondary.
And then the secondarily
Yeah.
are any new permits that the council wishes to issue.
Yeah, that's the way I thought I envisioned.
2 separate tracks.
Right.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Coops?
So has it been determined The girl that we all know of that begged us to take her money.
That's what I was
Does she
referring
no
to.
longer have a CUP? Did she relinquish that? She never had one. I thought she had one.
She applied, she insisted to pay the fees to apply, and I don't think she received anything.
I think she received CUP.
We'll double check. I mean,
All
it's at this point, it's
She
sort of a
could-
moot point, but we'll double check, yeah.
You know, remember how she begged?
Yeah.
She may end up all right after all.
I don't think so.
But with the CUP still in the back pocket, we didn't do anything to change that.
And if I may, just one moment, getting back to the mayor's earlier question about distribution, let me read to you what the definition of
Oh, okay.
distribution is.
All right.
This is out of the Business and Professions Code. This is section 26001 of the Business and Professions Code. Distribution means the procurement, sale, and transport of cannabis and cannabis products between licensees. So this is unlike delivery, which is delivery to the ultimate consumer. It has to be between permittees within the city or outside of the city. I'm not sure if that helps, but that's the actual definition. So the cannabis or cannabis products, it goes back to, I believe, what Mr. Stewart was saying, is that some of these products are actually just, it's like cutting flowers or whatever else it might be. You cultivate it, you cut the flower, it's now a product, and you distribute it without any manufacturing involved with it. That actual raw product is what you are distributing from one licensee to another. So for example, if you have a distribution license and a cultivation license, you can cultivate the product, you can then distribute it to a dispensary licensee, and that dispensary licensee then is either selling it retail from the store or they're delivering it to the ultimate consumer.
Okay.
You still not
All
sold?
right. No, well, I like the idea, because if that's the case, if BBNY sells the flowers
Right.
without any processing to another entity, that's distribution.
There you go. And it's sales tax for us, or.
So we tax that.
Yeah.
That's right, I like the
Right,
idea.
right.
And then if that entity now does something with the product, they package it, whatever it is, and then sells it to a dispensary, that's distribution again.
It's two taxes instead of one. We would get the tax, the initial sale. If they get a distribution permit, we'd then get two taxes, because it would be the first and then the second sale.
No, what I mean, yes,
Yeah,
exactly,
right.
exactly. So basically, we have two distribution
Right.
fees, so to speak, if that's the case.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
You're
that's
right.
good.
That's right. That's
That's
a
good.
good way to put it, yeah.
Yes, that's good, okay.
And how do you suggest we control that?
We don't, the state does. It's all numbered, and they have a sequence, and everything is.
But I mean, I'm back to Mr. Butt's.
How do we check the books? We have a right,
Yeah,
our guidelines
yeah,
say that
but,
we
you
have the
know,
right to
once
audit
it-
annually.
Once you grow it, then you send it out unprocessed.
No, we're gonna have to check. Yeah, no, the plants are all numbered, and there'll be a lot of controls built in. But as far as them self-reporting the taxes that they pay, there's no doubt we're gonna have to audit those from time to time. That's gonna have to happen, yeah.
Because
And
would
we have
know
the
how-
right to do that.
Because we would know how much is being
That's
produced
right, yeah.
in the first place.
I mean, we get the reports, the state has a report, and we'll use that and all that and balance it, but just to make sure, because as Mr. Butts said, we gotta keep them honest, so we're gonna have to audit them.
The plant died.
Too bad.
Just like your cow.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, I mean, yeah, the plant died, but then that distribution number goes away, and they can't make money from it if the number of the plant. So they can't say that, if it's damaged or died. If they do something with it, they have to use that number.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Ms. Stover
Yes.
just pointed out that the CUP was denied from the individual that we were speaking of before,
Oh,
so they would not be eligible
Oh,
to.
because of the distance?
Correct.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Mr. Dunn, any question?
I have just one question. CUPs are based on the premise that if they stay in force as long as the entity is in business, but I'm assuming the medical cannabis, as long as the permit isn't intact. CUPs go null and void after 6 months or 180 days.
Of cessation of business, yeah.
Yeah, so
Well, hold on.
if a facility has no permit, is a 6-month clock ticking at that point from the permit not renewed?
So let me just back up for one moment. Once a conditional use permit is issued, it actually becomes a property right that's tied to that property. which means legally speaking, if the city wishes to revoke that CUP, there's a process that we have to go through. It's an actual hearing that we have to go through in order to revoke it. So while there's frequently a condition on all CUPs saying that they automatically expire after 6 months, legally speaking, we still have to go through a process.
After 6 months.
After 6
Got it.
months.
Okay, that's it.
So that tying into your observation about if there's no MCBP that's tied to that property, yes, the answer is yes. That clock starts ticking, and after 6 months of non-operation or no valid permit, which is the operations permit, we then have the green light to go forward and start revoking conditional use permits. But that's just an additional process.
That's when the revocation process would start 6 months after.
Correct.
Okay.
Or if they sold illegally, or did something that.
Right. Gotcha. Okay.
Okay,
That's clarification for me.
all right, very good. Any
I
other
was worried about a
question?
timeline, of some kind.
Any other question for Ms. Stover? Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
There's no public
Oh,
hearing.
there's public comments.
I did have one more thing to follow up
Oh.
with. Carl, if you could take one more look at that. The MCP was denied for the dab shop, which was the woman who came in, but the CUP was approved.
Your finger on your picture shows me denied.
So it was right above it. Sorry.
Okay,
So go ahead and clarify.
So to clarify.
all right, very good.
The dab shop, who is the woman that you were talking about before,
That's the one that wanted to give us a check no matter what.
Yeah,
yes.
that's what I thought. I thought they got CUP.
The MCBP was denied.
denied, yeah, okay.
And the CUP was approved, and I believe you're correct, it was because of location restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
So she's still in the mix.
So she could, if for whatever reason she wanted to come back and give the city more money for us to process the application with regard to the MCBP, I still think that location problem would be present for the operations permit. I don't think.
Yes.
She still has to meet the existing conditions of the CUP and the existing guidelines that we established back then in December of 2017 or whatever,
Yes.
and the three new ones that we added, right?
But she's still a player.
But potentially.
Potentially.
Yeah.
If something
Amazing
hap-
how Randy could put somebody out of business with a thumb over them.
Okay. Anyone who would like to speak on this item from the public, please come forward. Please just write your name and,
Gene Gonzalez, Calumet. I'm a little confused. So the question that I have, and I don't know if you can answer it, but does that mean that I would get a distribution license because I had applied for it and was denied?
you can apply.
Yes.
You can apply.
Well, you think
Yeah,
you get
you
one
can
because
apply.
you have manufacturing.
You have
don't you?
Correct, I have
Yeah.
manufactured.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So I would have to pay for a new application fee?
It's a it's
The
a
lower
reduced.
fee.
If you're going to test,
For, no, that's
No,
for
that's
testing.
for testing.
That's testing.
No,
For distribution, I'm asking.
there's no fee.
No.
So that's an interesting question. He paid the initial fee and was denied. We have to think about that. Yeah.
That was the relocation fee.
Just give us 25,000.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's,
Of course.
yeah, we need to think about that. The
Okay.
answer is, yes, you're eligible to reapply.
Would I have to reapply since I just applied?
Everybody has to reapply.
Okay.
So, or everybody has to apply for that license. But you can use your existing application and just state the guidelines that were included new, and we'll post something on the website soon to help clarify that. The fee is the issue. So he's paid his fee originally, was denied. Does that original fee count toward the reconsideration of his distribution? I'm going to say yes. But that's just my gut level.
Well,
I
but there's
just-
going to be an additional processing cost now. There's going to be time involved.
Correct, but he
Okay.
paid his fee, and we're not charging the others, who also paid their fees. So we're not charging the others who paid their fees and got the permit.
No, but in terms of reapplication,
Oh,
there's-
yeah, right, the ones are just gonna
Yeah.
Right.
renew it, there's
Because-
no more fee
correct.
attached to it.
because there's not
Yeah.
much renewal involved in that one.
Gotta keep it fair.
The only reason the other one is expensive is because, as Mr. Coops pointed out, Meridian's involved, and they'd only be involved with new entities coming in as the lessee to another person for testing. He's a known entity, he's already applied. I believe that he gets to apply for his distribution with, I don't see an additional fee there for you, hang on.
I paid it.
I know you want to pay an additional fee.
No,
No, I paid it.
He just wants to
Paid
apply.
$60,000 4 months ago.
well, technically, there has to be something because there's cost involved.
Yeah, but he already paid it.
No, but in terms of
we're
reapplication,
not
there's
charging
going to
the
be
other ones.
additional.
But we're not charging the other people.
We're
Why
not
would we
charging
charge
the
him?
others. Right, but why would we? You understand? Because it's an ancillary permit. This is the same deal, except that the only difference is. But the renewal fee would be applicable.
If you renew your MCDP on an annual basis, we charge $63.
So you're going to treat this as a renewal. Well, that's council call, it's
That's
policy
for
call.
everybody?
So,
Same process, because you have to verify everything, the same thing as if you were a renewal.
so everybody, so you're saying that we should charge a $6,300 fee to everybody that applies for a distribution permit?
Otherwise, you're charging the $28.
Correct.
So why would we charge the $25?
The renewal is reasonable. That's probably fair. You know what, that's it. So we need to, so we always think of something
Can you
new.
bring back the chart again, the
Yeah.
testing and distribution, so at least we know who the players are? Okay.
Yeah, so we need to, Carl's right. So we should apply the $6,300 fee to the distribution applications, including his and the other guys.
Because they applied before
Yeah, because they
for
were,
distribution.
the only difference is they were turned down before. That doesn't matter though, because he's,
Charging for the CUP, that's why.
yeah, we're not charging for the CUP. So he's a qualified applicant under our current guidelines to apply for that. And his fee should be, I think Carl's right, at $6,300, treated as a
Okay,
renewal.
so how do you compare that with EAL Holdings, who did not apply before for distribution?
They'll pay it. They'll pay $6,300 if they apply for distribution permit.
How about same thing with BBNY?
Correct. We're,
So-
sa- what we
But
didn't
he's
think
already
about-
paid on a denial one, too.
Yeah, what we didn't think about was that,
Verify that everything.
yeah, we have to verify everything. So we didn't think about that there would be a fee, but there should be. And because we have to verify that nothing's changed off the original application.
So there's cost involved.
So we'll just, the $6,000 fee will cover that. Because it's, again, it's not a tremendous amount of work. It's the same kind of thing we do with the other ones anyway.
Is that an annual renewal?
Yeah,
Because we got it in there as a renewal, right?
yeah,
Is that per permit?
per permit,
Per permit.
yeah.
I
So
think,
that makes sense.
I think that's fair.
That's
So
a logical.
you paid a renewal for your other permit, didn't you?
I did. I
Okay.
paid the reconsideration fee, I think.
Yeah.
it was,
So
and-
he's-
And the renewal.
He's just getting a delayed, assuming everything goes according to Hoyle, he gets a delayed approval for a permit he paid for last year, or 8 months ago, whenever you paid it, yeah. That makes sense, I think that's fair.
Because you'd have to pay it anyway on a renewal.
Correct, you'd have to pay it anyway.
You're just paying it a little quicker.
Yeah. And we push it out a year, and we'll have,
And
what I suspect we do to make it even, so we don't have it go out in years, we prorate it for the remainder of the year and then go after the full renewal fee.
That's
Yes.
even fair.
Yeah, it's even better, that's smarter, yeah.
It's per month.
Yeah. So they get a little discount for the first 3 months of this year, and then
And how much
next year.
again, how much the
So-
renewal fee? 6,300?
6,300 and change, whatever it is. 6,357.
Would that then apply to applying for the dispensary license as well that are up for?
No, that's
may
new.
be available?
But
That's totally,
we're not even discussing dispensary license
Okay.
now. And we haven't even discussed the process to do that yet.
Okay.
So,
I wouldn't go that fast.
yeah,
While I'm up here, I guess I'd ask.
yeah.
Okay.
Gene, would you have any interest in doing a lab?
I know that as a cultivator, distributor, manufacturer, you can't hold a testing license. So if there's a way to do that as a landlord, then
We
absolutely.
think we can find a way to.
Okay, if you guys can figure it out, absolutely. I know that it has to be separate
Yeah,
entities.
we're still digging into that, but I think we can find a way for that. We want to give the current license holders the first shot at doing that.
That'd be
before we
great.
open it up. Yeah, I think that's the way forward. Thanks for bringing that up.
Okay, any other question?
No, that's it, thank you.
All right, very good, thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, I'll like to interject a couple items. So this is basically for the licenses that, let's say, revoked or weren't exercised on. And this is just going out to the people that basically had been approved but didn't win on the deal.
No,
Or can anybody
No.
automatically come into the game?
not everybody can come in. What we are saying is that if you've had an MCBP, you have a current CUP, and you've had an MCBP that's been revoked in the past 18 months,
Yeah.
and the person that did not receive an MCBP, those persons would be eligible to reapply.
Right, I understand.
And that's what that is. Secondarily, the council, if they go forward with this action tonight, is going to approve a process whereby we can provide testing laboratories on sites that currently have MCBPs.
Right.
And we want to allow them, if they have the ability to accommodate it, allow them to have a distribution facility on site.
Right.
That's what we're doing tonight,
So in other words, it eliminates anybody new coming into the game.
for the time being.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, until we get our bearings and figure out what we need to do to make it all right later.
All right, well, I like, that's all I was after.
Yeah.
But now, we have never really put a limitation on how long it takes to open these things. And that's where we've lost this money for the past 2 years, let's
Yeah,
say.
it's
So
just-
if I'm going to add something and I've got a chance to put stipulations into it,
a penalty for not opening on time.
yeah, I would like to
You're
have
on.
something in there about either you have it open in such and such a date, or you lose everything and you're out of here.
Or you pay a
period.
penalty, and we're fine with that.
No, you're out of here.
That's a good idea.
Period.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Because there's no reason, if you got a piece of property tied down, there is no damn reason in the world when a person has it in hand, the permits and all that, that facility can't be up and running in less than 6 months. There's nobody out there in the state of California that can say they have to have a year to get something done
I will say,
on an existing facility.
Jeff, let me answer the question.
Yeah.
We cannot put the genie in the box, okay? It's already out, so we're gonna go forward and do and fix it.
Right, I understand that, but I'm trying to help you fix it.
Yeah.
By putting the
We
stipulation
got it,
in.
we got it, we got the idea, we got it.
But I'm not for sitting here 2 years and no money from all these characters that wanted this license, and then all of a sudden they gotta figure out, how can I get money from a bank or something, that I gotta borrow money to build this? That's the
Yeah.
whole game that's been going on. You know it and I know it.
Yeah.
And it was
We-
all
we're
wrong.
learn-
And
we're
that's-
learning too,
and that's-
okay?
And that's due to our fabulous consultant that we paid all that stupid money from. Now, Mr. Coops, I'd like to let you know something, because the way you compared things on me hiding money and stuff. I had a partner once. He was in the cattle business too, milk cows. He wrote off so many cows every year that died. But when they done an audit, like like Jeff was speaking of, all of a sudden they come back to life and there was problems.
They call those Lazarus cows.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyone else would like to speak on this item? All right, there being none. Okay, let's move on. Any other comments? Is it done?
No.
Okay, we're good? Mr. Amada?
It's all been said,
Good.
Sonny.
Oh, I know. Okay, I hope.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, with regard to the application fee, if that's something that the council is interested in doing and going along with, my recommendation would be to add in the following language in section 6 of the draft resolution, which would be on page 2 of the resolution. It currently states MCBP permittees must pay an application fee, and I would add in to that in accordance with resolution number 1865 adopted October 8th, 2018.
Should it be a renewal fee?
And that's the 1865.
Okay, because you said
Yeah.
application fee, okay.
Correct. So that's the 6357.
What did he call it? What'd you call
resolution number 1865.
Was it called renewal fee?
Application fee, is it a renewal fee?
Well, application fee is a defined term.
Okay.
So application fee means those fees established by resolution, including those established and referenced in resolution number 1910, which you adopted earlier during the public hearing. So it's a defined term. So all we're doing is specifying that this particular, I mean, we can type in the amount if you prefer. I'd like to link it into that resolution only because that was done after a public hearing, and it's for a specific renewal fee. And we can amend it next time, but if we link it into this resolution number, then it's that particular amount. It's 6357.
6350. And you're going to refer that to that resolution?
Correct.
But the 6353 is in that 1910?
No, it's in resolution 1865, which you adopted
So what
October
happened
8th,
is,
2018.
you're giving us direction by adopting this to amend and bring back an amended resolution that you just approved 3 minutes ago at the next meeting. And you'd approve an amended resolution with this fee built into it.
Okay, so for testing, we're going to still stay with the fee that was
With 19
approved earlier?
Testing hasn't changed.
It hasn't changed?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just
Okay, I think
the,
I can do this.
yeah.
I'm going to try to make a motion, Mayor.
Okay, go ahead, Mr.
I'd like to
Mr. Dunn.
adopt resolution number 19-13 by adding an ability for the city council to allow current manufacturing and/or cultivation MCBP permittees to apply for distribution MCBP and at the currently permitted location. And by adding the ability for the city council to reconsider previously denied MCBP applications, whether initial applications or renewal applications, upon making particular findings. And I also put that in amendment, as the city attorney was discussing, to include the resolution 1910 fees in this one, to get amended, and following the resolution of 1865 guidelines.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Dunn, and seconded by Councilmember Hamada.
One
For
moment,
this-
please. So you did the part about prorating that 6,300. Is that got to be in the motion?
I think we can do that with the admin guidelines on that.
Okay,
It's an annual fee.
but that's what we promised, that we
Yeah,
would
I
work
think we
that
can
out.
prorate that. I don't think we need to have council adopt to do that.
It's a, we'll put together an administrative policy, which we have to
Well,
do
then
in
we'll bring
any
it back
event
to the council.
to implement it, and then to make sure that
Clean it up.
it's all cleaned. We'll bring it back to the council to verify.
Okay.
All right, let's try it again. A motion by Councilmember Dunn, seconded by Councilmember Hamada, for the City Council of Bellflower to adopt Resolution 19-13 with all the corrections and amendments stipulated earlier. Let's capture the motion? Yes, sir. Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Dunn,
Aye.
Councilmember Amata,
Aye.
Councilmember Coops,
Aye.
Mayor Santenaz.
Aye. Okay, we're going back to ordinances and resolutions for consideration, item 12A.
Mr. Garza can come back.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Garza.
Oh, I'll go get him.
Let the record reflect that Mayor Pro Tem Garza is rejoining the meeting.
Mayor remembered you.
Welcome back. All right, Mr. Stewart, 12A.
This is consideration possible action to, one, adopt urgency ordinance number 1371, an urgency ordinance amending Bellflower Municipal Code BMC 15.40.010 by authorizing the city's chief building official or designee to enforce the fire code in accordance with California Health and Safety Code, section 13869.7. And two, read by title only, waive further reading, and introduce ordinance number 1372, an ordinance amending Bellflower Municipal Code BMC 15.40.010 by authorizing the city's chief building official or designee to enforce the fire code in accordance with Health and Safety Code, section 13869.7. And this item is brought to you because of some logistics in working with different agencies and getting approvals for the in and out process. We're looking to expedite that. We're not looking to short sheet any of the guidelines in the California Building Code, or for that matter, the LA County standards on fire protection or anything else. This is just to expedite the process. We recommend approval of this ordinance, and Mr. Patterson's here to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Mr. Patterson?
Good evening, thank you.
Good evening. So based on these proposed changes, what's basically the essence of the change that you're proposing, in a nutshell?
In a nutshell, this is going to help us in several fronts. It's going to help us with the future code adoptions, to where we're in sync with other agencies about who's making the calls, who's making the determinations. It'll also help us in some of the Bellflower areas about the different calls that need to be made. It'll also help us in expediting permit processing.
Okay. So will there be any impact regarding emergency service calls?
No, there'll be no impacts on emergency service calls.
Okay, so that's going to stay?
It'll stay exactly the same as it is. We have a wonderful relationship with LA County Fire. They'll still respond. Also with our staff, we have fire marshals. I believe you were handed out a resume of one of our people. They'll be as available as any other agency.
Mm-hmm. So in this case, all the emergency calls will still be handled by the LA County Fire Department?
Yes.
This is
Okay.
building safety, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
of course.
Yeah, I'm just clarifying that because
Yes, good
I want to make
question.
sure that the optics is very clear here.
No, we're not trying to replace anything. We're trying to augment and have additional ways to better serve our public.
Okay. Is there any downside of adopting this resolution and changing the way we do business with LA County Fire?
I can't think of any downside to this. I honestly cannot think of any downside to it.
Okay.
We're all trained in the specific fields. The other agencies have qualified personnel. We have qualified personnel.
Mhm.
You have qualified personnel. I can't think of any downside.
And,
One of the things we always try to do is have options and multiple ways to do things to help the development community, and this is just another one.
Okay. Can you give us an example of how this came about?
We, in the past couple of years, we've had a few buildings where there were differences on the building code and the fire code and other agencies' amendments. And sometimes they became in conflict with each other. And when that happens, other agencies at times may want theirs to be dominant. And other agencies don't want them to be dominant. So it's, and in
Just
those
be,
cases,
Steve's
we
being
resolve it.
nice. What's happened is, we believe that on the regulatory side of the fire department, and not the suppression side, not the emergency service suppression side, but on the fire inspection side, they've exceeded their reach, frankly. And we're starting to implement rules that were not included in their guidelines or the state guidelines or any others that we could tell. We're not 100% certain why that's happened. I suspect we will get to the bottom of it and we'll restore order, but right now that hasn't happened. So that's why we're doing this tonight.
Another point that we've seen is franchise agreements that are being built throughout our surrounding area. There's different people that are reviewing the plans, and they come up with different results. We're trying to consolidate for Bellflower that we have consistency. So we're trying to put that together in a more consolidated effort.
So do you believe that there's going to be better response time once we go to this new process?
It won't affect the response time on the emergency side. What it will
No,
do
no,
is
response time in
increase.
terms of permitting
Correct.
process.
It will speed the
It'll
permitting
actually
process.
expedite,
Right.
it'll actually expedite plan check timeframes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that's all I have. Mr. Garza?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just to clarify, so the enforcement officer, the term enforcement officer that's in the staff report, that would be another term for the fire marshal?
No, it would be myself.
The city has the ability to appoint the chief building official to serve as the fire marshal on reviewing those sections of the code on the plans.
Perfect.
But in addition to having the chief building official, we wanted to ensure that there was somebody in Steve's staff that was an expert on fire codes and building codes, and we have that, and we feel we have the belt and suspenders necessary to make sure that the health and safety interests are protected in this city.
Perfect. And I know that that's
It's
right.
very similar. It's very similar. As your building official, I have experts in electrical, mechanical, plumbing, structural. I also have them in fire.
And I know that's entrusted on us. We can make that decision, which is.
Yes.
That's great. So my question is, so this new official, whoever we designate, this enforcement officer, would be the de facto fire marshal for our city? Or is it just the enforcement officer of the code?
For reasons of plan check, he would act as the fire marshal in review of the plans. As far as enforcing occupancy standards and other issues, those are done at the suppression level, at the station level, with the captains making those decisions.
Most of those are already determined and separated out of the building code and fire code. As an example, your building official sets occupant loads, not others.
Correct.
I said it. Building officials are the one who final the building, not others. That's typical in most all jurisdictions.
And I don't, personally, unless, until I hear from my colleagues, I don't have an issue with the request. I'm just trying to clarify with these questions. So the last question I have is, God forbid in the future is a fire, right? And our fire marshal enforcement officer approved something, right, that after there's an investigation of a fire was found by the fire department to maybe conflict with our code, like what would happen there in terms of liability? Like, is the city gonna be liable for, are we accepting liability for any future, maybe not intentional negligence on the part of any fire marshal? I want to make sure that we are all aware of what we are agreeing to here, so.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, perhaps I can lend some thoughts on this discussion. So this city, just like every other city in the state of California, adopts certain uniform codes. You're going to see those in the fall because we're in the news cycle. Every 3 years, there's a new cycle of uniform codes. There are two codes really that are relevant for tonight's discussion. One is the building code and one is the fire code. The fire code has certain preventative measures that sort of blend with the building code when you're building new buildings. That's really what we're talking about today. And the Fire Protection District does review certain building plans and opines whether or not those building plans conform with the LA County Code. And the reason I emphasize that's the LA County Code is because each county and each city actually has some limited ability to change those uniform codes based upon certain criteria. LA County has done so and tries to have all of the jurisdictions within its greater jurisdiction adopt the same code that LA County has. The city of Bellflower has done so. It did so in 2016. It adopted by reference the LA County Code. The only question for tonight is who's going to enforce that code? Typically, the city has cooperated with the Fire Protection District and sent plans to the Fire Protection District for a review to ensure that they comply with the county code. Mr. Patterson and his fire marshal are also capable of reading those plans and enforcing that particular code. So whatever's written out in that code is going to be enforced and is going to be applied to all the building plans coming through. So to your question, we're applying the same code that LA County would do. It's just more efficiently, probably less expensively, and the turnaround is much quicker, simply because of the knowledge that our building official has with regard to this jurisdiction as opposed to a planner in downtown Los Angeles does. And so really that's what we're talking about. And under the Health and Safety Code, there are two options for the city. One is to allow the fire chief to enforce that fire code or to allow the building official to do so. And here, since those two codes with regard to building are really integrated, it seems to make more sense for the building official for Bellflower to be applying the LA County Code to all the building plans. I always say that anyone with $500 that sues the city can sue the city. Whether or not they win is a separate question. But it's the same code being applied whether it's in LA County or in the city of Bellflower.
Perfect. Thanks for clarifying that, Mr. City Attorney. So that answers my question right there. So that's all my questions. So I appreciate your time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Dunn?
I can nothing but see this expediting it. So when somebody's going to build something and they're going to require fire department approval, you have a set of plans may go to the sanitation districts, plans may go to the health department, plans go to the building and safety, and plans go to fire. The problem is the plans go to fire. Takes a long time. Now we'll be able to submit and get fire in-house stamped on those plans?
Yes,
So they're going to expedite extremely quicker.
a lot faster. The other point too to understand, the fire code has a suppression section, how to put the fire out. They do not have what the building code has about how to build them, or the electrical, or mechanical, or plumbing. They talk about how to put it out. Amendments that LA County has come up with, they get into that area, and sometimes that causes a conflict. So fire codes are about suppression. Building codes are about building it.
Okay, you good? All right. Mr. Coops?
I've answered all my questions.
Okay. Mr. Amata?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, Steve, I want to thank you for stepping up with you and your teams of expertise on this matter, and I'm all for permit streamlining. You know, really got to cut down some of that timeline on how things move along through the process. And maybe this question is maybe more towards maybe Jeff and Carl is, will this require any amendment to our contract with fire? All right.
None.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
No. This also augments our self-certification program.
Yeah.
Moves it all around.
Well, just to piggyback on your question, Councilmember Hamada, but although there's no amendment in the contract, I would expect some kind of reduction in cost from the fire department.
I believe Mr. Patterson's costs are quite a bit lower than the LA County Fire District, and we should realize.
So it's going to be net savings. Okay. All right, very good.
Hey, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt urgency ordinance numbers 1371, amending the Bellflower Municipal Code, section 15.40.
Can we get public comments?
Oh, okay.
First? Just in case someone. None? All right, go ahead. I just want to make sure that we are very transparent here.
Section 15.40.010, authorizing the city's chief building official to enforce the fire code pursuant to Health and Safety Code, section 13869.7. H1B. And waive further reading and introduce ordinance number 1372, amending the Bellflower Municipal Code, section 15.40.010, authorizing the city building official to enforce the fire code pursuant to Health and Safety Code, section 13869.7, H1B.
I'll second that.
Motion by Councilmember Dunn, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Garza, for the City Council to adopt urgency ordinance 1371 and introduce ordinance 1372. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Denton.
Aye.
Councilmember Amata.
Aye.
Councilmember Coops.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Garza.
Aye.
Mayor Santinez.
Aye. All right, we're going back to 13A.
And this is consideration of possible action to form an ad hoc subcommittee comprised of council members and Bellflower residents and/or business owners to consider and make recommendations regarding potential city revenue sources and the potential of establishing local city charter. This item comes to us from a variety of tasks that we performed in the last several months, one of which was we had talked about forming a business improvement district. We've had some preliminary meetings on that. And out of that business improvement district came a larger discussion from among some business owners in town about increasing local revenue sources. And the last time the city did have a serious discussion about increasing revenue sources, it appointed a multi-member citizens task force to discuss that. Additionally, prior to the last election, there was some discussion about adopting a city charter to help protect us from some of the failings of Sacramento and to protect our revenue sources. But mainly, it would be to protect us on land use issues and allow us to make some of our own rules on contract bidding and public works projects and other small ancillary items that we want to take up in a charter. It was tabled until after the election. Where after the election, we now have seemingly a new interest among some folks in looking at additional revenue sources including Mr. Butts, who's talked to us about one of the revenue sources that we would ostensibly talk about. I decided to, for the sake of brevity, to combine both the city charter and these revenues because they are somewhat related. But what we're looking for tonight is direction to, we need a charter committee, we need a revenue committee. They can be the same, or you could bifurcate and form two separate committees to handle both items separately. It's really of no mind to staff. We just wanted to get the discussion going on getting a committee process going on this, which include a number. We've said 11. We pulled the number. It's a large number. It needs to be a fairly large number, but not too unwieldy, plus 2 council members, 2 members of an ad hoc subcommittee that the council would form. We could either, like I said before, we could either consider both these items together or have 2 different committees of a number that you pick. It can be 11 or different, bigger or smaller, and 2 members of a subcommittee to sit with those members on the committee. We understand, of course, that tonight you probably don't have 11 names ready to go, even if you went with the staff recommendation. So what we're recommending is that you establish the 2-member subcommittee to start recommending names to the city council that they could be approved at a later date. If you were seeking, and to discuss the number of those, and if it's 11 or 15 or 8 or whatever, or 9, whatever it needs to be, and additionally, to discuss the charter. If there's some sense that you want to bifurcate those functions, then what we'd look for was the appointment of 2 ad hoc subcommittees to work on both functions separately with 2 different committees. And we can do anything you want to do on that. I just wanted to present the options out for you tonight.
Mayor?
Go ahead.
I can add a little something to how this came about. I was approached by the Public Safety Review Committee when I was mayor last term, and they wanted to get a meeting together with me there to discuss revenue sources and ideas to move forward. And we had a pretty good think tank. There was probably 12 people in the room, and we probably spent a good hour and a half talking about it. It was a meeting, plus this was an add-on thing, and I was there, and the city manager sat there, and we had a lot of excitement and energy in the room of trying to do. They knew the core of the city. They actually have, the review committee renews the UUT every year, and they just went through that, and so, as I know Sonny knows, working with me over the last several years up here, they just, you guys know what you asked for. And I just threw everything out. Every idea that we've talked about, Sonny, revenue sources, and got their energy flowing to talk about, how to do this. And even went into the charter cities a little bit. And I opened up a lot of eyes into what can happen. And when it came down to it, I talked about the Measure A and Measure P stuff, and we had this ad hoc committee or whatever, and we can form one if that's what you want or whatever. We can put it before the council and see what they want to do. And they were all in. And with that, I'd like to, I've got some sweat equity in it. And you know how I've worked in the past. I know Mr. Coops and Sonny, and I think Ray Hamada, and of course Juan too. It's what I've done. My heart's in it, trying to go for it, and I would think that would be wise. And I know we've talked several years ago, Sonny, about what to do or whatever, and I think that me and you would make a good team on that ad hoc committee.
Okay. What kind of timeline are you projecting for this committee? Let's say we have a separate committee for revenue enhancement and
We'd have to have it
charter.
wrapped up by May of next year, all the discussions that we have.
May of next
Because
year.
anything we do on this committee would require voter approval. We have to have them wrapped up and ready to go and in final form by August so they can get on the ballot for November 2020.
2020.
And yeah, we got public hearings in the process. There's lots of things to do in the middle of it.
Do you
so.
think that if we separate the subcommittees, it's going to be faster for the charter to finish the project?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see it that way, but
Be more focused.
yeah.
be
I mean, that would be
Yeah.
factual. It would be more
I think
focused.
it's going to be
yeah.
it's going to take less time.
Yeah,
it'd
I
be
see
more focused.
pluses and minuses with both, frankly. So I think it's 6 of one, half does the other from our perspective. If you want more focus on the charter, do the 2 committees. We'll get that
Okay,
going.
Mr. Garza, any comment?
You know, the only comments I have at this point is just just because to me, they're pretty distinct subjects. I mean, I think the focus of a charter and the focus of a revenue committee, I think they're both value added, but I think the level of discussion and expertise for both is quite distinct. I see the interrelationship between them, but I think foundationally, I think they're distinct. So I think at this
The
point.
committees can be more focused, one direction versus the other direction. I get it.
So I would be in favor of having two separate committees. Yeah.
Okay, good. Mr. Hamada, any thought?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. The thought of a charter city is, quite intriguing. Most cities in California aren't charter cities, probably maybe just over 25% or so. But this sense of home rule really gets put forward, and I think it brings on, maybe some more creativity, and we're not, hand-tied by the state in a lot of things. I've been fortunate to work for two charter cities, and things, there are always obviously two sides to the issue, but just getting that sense that you can think a little more outside the box and really focus on some of the major issues that face communities, and our community itself will possibly see some new things. Everything, it's not perfect. There are pros and cons to everything. So, but I think I would agree that it's an animal by itself. Charter city thoughts. So I would concur with two committees, one for the charter and one for fees and so on.
Okay, very good. Mr. Coops?
And I believe two committees are probably the best. I'm against having more committees than necessary, but these are such important subject matters that we need not take a shortcut on it. And like Juan said, they are two distinct subject matters that really don't come together too well. The charter city thing is probably a bigger deal than the trying to find more income. That will have long-lasting, permanent ramifications for our city, so that needs to be dealt with very, very thoroughly.
Okay. It seems like there's a consensus here to have a separate committee. Any thought in terms of the number of committee members
No, I
for
think that
charter?
what you want to do now is you want to appoint your subcommittees, and then each committee can have its thoughts about forming the number they want to recommend to the council,
Okay.
the names they want to recommend, because I don't know what that working number would be, and that's really for you guys to hash out.
Okay,
I agree with Ray that, he is the one that has brought this income potentials forward, and I think that the mayor should have involvement in that as well, unless you think that you'd be better served on the charter side, but whatever you think.
Well, I think if I were, and I'm glad that one of the examples, because I've been, in the past also, I've been sharing some ideas with staff in terms of revenue enhancement and.
Where do you feel more comfortable?
Oh, revenue.
Okay.
Because I am really pushing for the sales tax actually, and it's there. So.
I would agree on Councilmember Dutton and Mayor Santa Ynez for revenue.
I think Juan and Ray Raven ought to do the charter.
I've been a part of charter amendments for other cities as well, so.
And I think that Ray just gave his biography here where he is.
That's what I saw.
I thought I was on my honeymoon.
Yeah, Dan, you can go on
So
vacation.
it played out well, I guess.
No, I would endorse Mr. Hamada and Mayor Pro Tem Juan to be the members of the subcommittee for the charter.
All right, so do we need to take a formal vote on that, or
I
this
don't think
direction
you
is
guys
good
are good,
enough?
we're good. And we
Okay.
can, so
Without
what we'll
objection.
do is we will break off and organize meetings in the very near future, the next few days or week, and then we'll start working on both of these things. So,
Okay,
yeah.
very good. All
Yeah.
right, thank you. All right, moving along, we're now into the consent calendar.
Mr. Mayor, the city clerk's asked that I read this into the record before we go to the consent
Oh,
calendar.
okay, go ahead.
And it's a change. It's on the Bellflower City Council minutes for January 14,
minutes.
2019. It's item 10A. And at the bottom of page 9 and the last paragraph, second line, instead of saying at the very beginning, Metro and West Santa Ana Branch, we want to substitute the word Metro with Eco Rapid. And then on the next line down, number 2, we want to add the word staff. So it would read, Metro staff has experience with P3 projects. And those are the recommended changes that we,
Okay, so that's
So
item 10A? Very good.
no, I'm sorry, it's 14J. Yeah, that's
14J.
right.
Okay, any other corrections, any recusals?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coops?
14E, I'm going to recuse myself since I have property too close to this project.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor, if there's no further comments or amendments to the consent calendar, I'll move for approval.
Mr. Dunn, do you have any
Yeah, I need to recuse
Conflict?
myself from 14I because I
14I?
I
Okay,
have a property located within that area there. And, that's that project that hasn't even started construction barely, and it's already got a cost overrun.
okay. Is there anything you want to pull? I'd like to pull item 14A. Is it the warrant register? For the first time in many years, we're going to pull out the warrant register. All right, just for comment, let me make a comment on that at this point. My comment is on the payment to the Bellflower Unified School District of $4 million. And I asked Mr. Ray, Mr. Tay, can you?
Hey, Ray.
My question is on the, so far we have paid, we cut a check to the Bellflower Unified School District in the amount of $4,440,000 and some change, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and
That's the
that's-
latest payment.
And that's a big chunk of money. And that money was used for,
Bellflower High School, soccer field, artificial turf, and the lighting projects.
okay. Refresh our memory here. Where did the money come from?
When the redevelopment agency was formed, we entered into an MOU with Bellflower Unified School District committing to do certain projects. But that MOU was unclear. So Bellflower Unified School District sued this redevelopment agency, and in 2008, we reached an agreement, settlement agreement. And in that agreement, they listed a number of projects that will be funded with the tax increment revenue, and stipulated what they had to submit, what the timeline is, and so forth. And also in 2016, we entered into another amendment, number 1, to allow for Bellflower High School District soccer field and lighting projects to take precedence over any other project, and that was the payment. The $4 million of the $4.7 million invoice that they sent us.
So basically, the money came from the tax increments that was paid for by Bellflower residents,
Through the property tax.
to the property tax,
Yes.
okay.
But
So-
we need to clarify, it wasn't Bellflower City money, it was redevelopment tax increment
Yeah.
money. Yeah, okay.
Tax increment, yeah.
And then now the money coming, any monies that's come for the past, since 2012, and any money that in the future that would come on that would come from the state of California through the Department of Finance.
Correct,
So
yeah.
the residents are not on the hook for that payment on that.
And how much more money do you anticipate to be collected and paid to the school district going forward?
HDO's projection is about $3.8 million for the
3.8,
next
okay.
15 years.
Yeah, okay. I asked you earlier to give me information about the use of that money, and you gave me there's a joint use of district facilities. So there's an agreement for the residents of Bellflower to be able to use the facility. Is that
Right.
correct?
Right. When you raised this issue, I looked at the 2008 agreement, and it talked about the joint use agreement that we had to enter into between the city and Bellflower Unified School District for city's recreational programs. So the citizens who enroll in city's recreational program for, say, the use of soccer field, then they'll qualify.
Okay, thank you. So what I'd like, City Manager, is for staff to look into, should we include this in our programming, in our Parks and Recreation?
We have to develop the agreement and get it approved first, but yes,
Right.
we should.
Because I think since the money came from us, we're entitled to it. I think
Completely
our
agree with you.
residents should be able to enjoy that facility. So I think in future meetings, I'd like to include
Now
that.
that the check has been cut, we will be engaging very soon.
Okay,
So, yeah.
very good. All right, that's all my question. Thank you. All right. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar? Oh, there's a motion
I made
already?
the motion, yes, sir.
Oh, and there was a
No, second.
motion by Mayor Pro Tem Garza, second by Councilmember Hamada, to approve the consent calendar with recusals on 14I for Mr. Dutton, and then 14E for Mr. Coops, and as the minutes of the meeting was corrected. Okay? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Dutton?
Aye.
Councilmember Amata?
Aye.
Councilmember Coops?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Garza?
Aye.
Mayor Santenaz?
Aye. Okay, council reports. Councilmember Dutton.
I don't have anything tonight, Mayor.
All right. Councilmember Hamada.
Oh, yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's see, on February 2nd, I was at the local swearing-in of Assemblyperson Garcia, and I was, the mayor was also there. She also recognized some of the recipients of the Pride of the 58th and some of our local entities and residents. Let's see, Kingdom Causes was recognized, Robin Snow was recognized, and prior to my council days, I was recognized. So that was, it's been since October of 17, so it was quite rainy that day, so we kind of made it in on the boat, so it was good. On let's see, February 5th, I had the honor and pleasure to be the guest speaker at my area local neighborhood watch, and so I was able to meet and greet my neighbors and some friends, and also I took plenty of notes. They made a number of requests that I was able to pass on to staff, and I believe all have been addressed already. So again, thank you, staff, for working on those. On February 7th, I joined the Mayor Pro Tem at the West Santa Ana Branch Transit Corridor public meeting. I was able to stay just a bit, but I was able to view all the detailed exhibits, and I was able to meet a number of key staff, and I want to thank the Mayor Pro Tem for that, because we were moving quite through the group and catching up with them. So that was a great experience, and again, knowing that you know, this matter continues to be worked on, and the details are there, and it's and yes, it's going to always take some fine tuning, but I think we're you know, Bellflower is still going to be present to you know, provide any dialogue, recommendations. So we're still continue to work with them. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Hamada. Councilmember Coops.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank PJ Milana and Kristen for their great work in putting together the Bravo. We had our 25th anniversary Bravo Award last week, and Jim Abbott from the Angels and Yankees as the keynote speaker, and he was very effective. We have athletes, we have actors, and athletes always seem to do really well here because they're just really humble people. And if you remember, Jim Abbott was the guy that was pitching with one hand, so he had a real story to tell. We honored those heroics of our local citizens. We had Bellflower High singing. We had a full house. We had a great meal provided by Ham Bones. Wasn't it? Yep, Ham Bones. And it was just a wonderful day. And it even warmed up a little bit, and the rain went away. It was a nice, clear day here in Bellflower. And I just want to thank all the participants for coming out. I want to thank you for the good attendance. I want to thank the firefighters and all our deputy sheriffs that were able to attend. The sheriff was here. Janice Hahn came. Assistant fire chief was here. So we always get a good response from the county and our surrounding areas because it's such a neat program, a neat time when we kind of show off what we have in Bellflower and how we can do things right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Coops. Mayor Pro Tem Garza.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just to reiterate what Councilmember Coop said, Barbara Awards, great event. Just kudos to staff and everyone that attended that event. Also, on February 7th, the West San Ana Branch Committee meeting that took place in Artesia. Just a quick update on that right now Metro staff is working really hard on all their element, the environmental studies and doing their P3 studies to figure out how to finance this project. I think the next round of community meetings that we may get from them will probably be later this fall. So it's probably going to be a little low because they're going to be working, and that's fine. I prefer them to keep working over there. So, for those out there that are interested in the project and getting just more information, because we talk about this project and sometimes we don't really share where you can go and get more information. If you go to metro.net/WSAB, again, metro.net/WSAB, that's a direct website from Metro. It has anything and everything that if you want to find out about this project and the latest updates, environmental studies and everything, it's all in there. So, and then lastly, this coming Wednesday is an EcoRapid meeting. And as of right now, we're still a member of EcoRapid, and that'll most likely be our last meeting as an official member of that organization. So I just want to share with the public. I believe our separation letter will go out here within the next day or two.
As soon as we get a check, we expect a check tomorrow.
I think we already got it.
You got it? Okay.
Oh, good. Oh, it came today.
Very good.
So
The letter goes out tomorrow.
Yes. Yeah. So I believe if I read correctly, I think our official separation day will be March 15th because it's a 30-day notice. So I wanted to share with my colleagues, in case if you get asked, March 15th is our last day. And until then, we'll keep continuing involved because we're still a member of that body. So that completes my comments, Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you so much. I'd like to go back to Councilmember Hamada. I think you would like to adjourn this meeting in memory of someone?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to, dedicate this evening's meeting to be adjourned in memory of a longtime Bellflower resident, Loema Carr. Loema was born on July 26, 1935, and passed away on February 4, 2019, at the age of 83. Loema was a family friend, and she was born in West Virginia, where she met her future husband, Bill, there. They were married April 10th, 1952, and they eventually moved to Bellflower in 1962. Be the historian, Bill took over the ARCO station at the corner of Rosecrans and Bellflower Boulevard.
It was a rich field when he got
Yeah, so if everybody'd been around, that was when a service station was a service station. So, but Loema was a stay-home mom and wife. They had 3 daughters and 1 son. Their son, Richard, actually worked for the city as a mechanic, also fulfilled his dream to be a Los Angeles County fireman. And Richard passed away a number of years ago due to cancer. And if you're ever in Sacramento, if you go to the Fireman's Memorial, his name is enshrined on that memorial. So every time I make it up there, I do go chat with Richard for a few. So Again, they were members of the Calvary Baptist Church here in Bellflower. You know, the one thing we all remember about Luema, she was very creative and gifted. She just loved to sew. She loved to paint, quilt, bake, garden. So every time you saw her, she was always doing one of those. So in 2011, she was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and that's what happened. She finally passed away, and we did have a memorial service that was on just this past Saturday here, and again, Luemi was preceded in death by her husband Bill, and parents, and brother, and as I mentioned, Richard, and her daughter Rose, who I had known since grade school. So she's survived by her sister Madge Cantley and husband Bruce. I think Bruce was a teacher at Bellflower.
Yeah, he taught me math in seventh
He did, all
grade,
right,
yeah.
there it was, all
Yeah.
right. So, and then also Sister Nadine White and husband George, daughter Sarah Bruton, and her husband Glenn, and she also had another daughter, Rachel, 5 granddaughters and 5 great-grandchildren. So our deepest sympathies and, again, heartfelt condolences go out to the entire Carr family. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Hamada. I just want to piggyback on the Bravo Awards, and we cannot thank staff enough for what they did. It was a fantastic celebration. It seems like, I know that they will always say something went wrong, but from our eyes, everything was fine. Everything was great. Again, staff, thank you so much for all that you did to make it a very successful event. Adding on to Councilmember Hamada's comment on the swearing in of Assemblymember Garcia, it was just phenomenal celebration. It was a celebration of the cultural diversity of our district. Lots of folk dances. We're even given a celebration of Chinese New Year. They gave money to everyone present, $1 each, crisp $1.
You were supposed to feed that to the dragon, but the dragon couldn't make it around.
The dragon went away, so I have to keep it.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and the food was great. So, Chad, if you can extend our thanks to the Assembly member, please do so. And finally, I know Councilmember Coops doesn't want any more committee. I'd like to ask staff to prepare an agenda item for the next meeting to form a committee to look into our downtown parking. I know it's been an issue already. As Councilmember Dunn will say, it's a good problem to solve. And it's part of our desire to make Bellflower a more vibrant city. We are doing a lot of things, but I really want to start solving that issue before it goes out of hand. So if you can add that to the next meeting, we will address that issue, hopefully with good solutions. So with that, we're adjourning tonight's meeting in memory of Luema Carr to the next regular meeting of the Bellflower City Council at 5:30 p.m. on Monday, February 25, 2019. This meeting is adjourned.